Well, hello everybody. Happy Thursday to you. So glad you hopefully have a pencil in your hand and so glad that you hopefully found your way over here in order to draw a bunch. Um, I have a really fun lesson ready for you guys, and I am sorely in need of an hour of just thinking about drawing pillows. It's been quite the week, and I just want to turn off my brain and hang out with you guys and talk about how to draw pillows better because we all need to draw pillows. Um, on a serious note, it's not so much about drawing pillows tonight. It's more about how do we draw something that has a lot of information in it. Like, pillows have tons and tons of wrinkles. And how do we make it read without putting too much information into it, but also with still presenting it in a manner where it's like, oh, it looks like a pillow with wrinkles. So what you will learn in the next hour is you will learn what to put in and what to leave out, and how to create form. That's what the focus will be of tonight. To everybody who's here live, hey, so good to see you. And if you're catching the recording and you've never drawn with me before, my name is Carolyn Peters, and I'm the owner of Cura Studios, where I teach classical drawing skills so artists can build a super solid footing to explore their creativity from. And every week we get together here, we draw together for an hour, and we rotate subject matter. We go through figure, portrait, animals, and inanimate things, like tonight, pillows. And with every week, we also have a different subject matter. And you will get the most out of this if you first listen, of course, to the explanation, and then maybe watch me for the first two drawings, and then draw along with me. And that's really the benefit. I purposefully designed these sessions so it's implementation heavy, because so much information just kind of washes over us and we just passively kind of take it in, but not that much sticks from that way of absorbing the information. Much more will stick with you if you actually draw along. And the cool thing is, later on you can come back, find your favorite pose, pause it, and then finish that drawing, because we draw very brief poses, and so you won't be able to finish your drawings most of the times, and that's on purpose because we want to train to make quicker, better decisions, and the way we train that is through many repetitions. And as I said, if there was a favorite pose, you can always come back later, hit pause, and then finish that drawing after the fact. Alrighty, so let's talk about the lesson, shall we? So as I said, it's going to be about how to create form, what we can leave out, and what we should put in. So let's begin with that big one. What should we put in? The main thing you want to look at is what creates the action. So in the pillow imagery that I will show you, you'll notice if there's a bend or a twist, there are certain folds that are structural folds. They're created because of the action. Those are the folds you have to put in. Then there will be folds that are reinforcing the action, or that are there because, let's say if there's a twist, they're echoing the twist. You might want to put those in too. And then there will be folds that are just fluff. They're more like wrinkles. So those are not structural folds, and that's something you can ignore. So those are your three main criterion. Is it action-based? Put it in. Is it action reinforcing? Put it in. Is it just textural? Might want to leave that out. So that's the first thing. Second point of creating a strong image with something that has lots of information, got to capture a really strong gesture. So what is that action? If the pillow is leaning, how much so? Can you exaggerate that? That's pretty easy, or at least we think it's easy. It's actually harder than we think, but it bears mentioning. Third point, you might want to take a look at overlaps. If the pillow is folding in on itself, which part is overlapping the other? Being really clear about those overlapping lines is essential. Point number 4. Oh, I already made that point. All right, point number 5. That's the last one before we dive into actually drawing, is To create the form, we'll have two main choices. One is to draw cross contours to build that idea of like it's stretching across and over the form. Or if we have it available, we can draw the shadow patterns, and those shadow patterns will help us create the illusion of form. Okay, so I have plenty of images for us. We'll begin with 3 minutes and then we gradually build into, I think the longest one is 8 minutes. So let me switch over the camera and we'll get started. Drawing in screen, hit transition, focus this. All right. All right, so I am hitting play. And as I said, I'm like really ready to just draw, and I was really happy about the subject matter tonight because pillows are just so goofy. I think they have a lot of life in them, a lot of personality in them. And on that note, the first thing that I'm focusing on in my drawing is what is the action of this pillow? So it has like this goofy sideward tilt, has these big ears, and so that's definitely something we want to exaggerate. So we have like a stretched part here, right? You have the compression here, and you might notice that there's something else that we usually draw that has those characteristics. We'll draw it next week again, and that's the figure. So there are lots of animation artists who actually make this an exercise where you have to draw a pillow in, I don't know how many different ways, maybe 50 different ways. Okay, so I kind of accomplished my first task of creating a strong gesture and of kind of paying attention to the action. And as I'm doing this, I'm being clear now about what's the overlap here. So this here is overlapping this here. So we call this a T-intersection. So that is a key structural element that will explain how the pillow is orienting in space. And now that you have that, you want to look for, okay, what other folds are there that exist because of the action of the pose. So we have this big crunch happening in here, and there's almost like a little bit of a twist as well. And because of that action, this fold here gets generated, and then this here echoes it. We have some, pressure coming down on here. So here's another T-intersection right here and here. I'm going to put those in because they kind of translate that there is weight bearing down. So here is another T-intersection. You see how I made clear that this is in front of this. So clear contour work is important. So Frankie, you're saying they call it the, I can't see because my comments are being blocked a little bit. I think you call it the flour sack, right? There are different names for this exercise, but they, it's the same as a bean, you know? But I feel like with pillows, we have more personality, or the flour sack. The bean is a little bit personality free. Okay, so here. So the big action of this pose is this kind of a crunch, right? Again, we have a stretched side and we have a compressed side. Because of this compression, we get this big structural fold in here. Now I'm going to look at my the shape a little bit. So you have here that little leg getting smushed. And then here, there's this little opening. So this opening, I'm just going to shade it flat because I don't want to create form in that. If I want to create form, I'd want to create it over here where we get into the midtone. But let me first check if I need any other form folds, as in structural folds. So this fold here is echoing this crunch or smushing action down here. This is the big one. Okay, so now that I have this, I can work on creating a little bit of form. I'm gonna just do a little bit of cross hatching here. And so when I place cross hatching, I usually seek out areas that have midtone. The way I lit these pillows, I didn't want to have a crazy strong light source on it. So we're mainly going for midtones. Okay, let me scoot this over and draw the next one. Okay, so again, we begin with the action. The action is this flopping over to the side. Whenever I draw the action, whether it's in a figure drawing or in a pillow, I like to feel it out with just the side of my pencil. Notice how these marks are very soft, almost hard to see because of that. And then once I have that, I can become a little bit more clear on the shape. And then here we have some ripples. So this fold down here is important because that's where the pressure is bearing down. And so that's what's creating this fold. So I'm going to put it in. Okay, so little wrinkle folds like over here on the left, I'm going to leave those out because in my book they would distract from what I'm trying to explain. So here we have this kind of swooping down, and it's almost like it's curling in, and so I'm including this little fold and maybe 1, 2 more echoes of it. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm just kind of scanning. I probably should put one in here, one of these guys. Now that I have that, I'm going to try and create some form. With some cross contour hatching. So when I cross contour hatch, I'm thinking about the plane, like the facet, like here, this is a facet that's kind of pointing down at the ground. So I'm trying to organize my hatch marks in line with one of the edges of the facet, if that makes sense. And so here it was pretty dark, so I'm darkening this. Okay, let me swap papers. Next one. So similar, flopping over to the side, but more mangled in the middle. Who knew that pillows could be so macabre? And whenever you're in the mood to draw and you don't quite know what to draw, just grab your own pillows. And so what I did, I just grabbed two. You'll see later on we'll have a duo or a duet. But they have each their own characteristics. Like I had one bigger pillow and one smaller one. And, you know, if you just want to entertain yourself and you want to be virtuous at the same time and do something for your craft, it's a perfect exercise. Okay, so just kind of to narrate, we have the swoop over to the right, and then right here in the middle we have this tucking under. So I have this swoop translated, I have this little characteristic point translated. Let's get into those structural folds at the core. I have to say this every time, especially if you're new here. You'll see me struggle along with you. I do not pretend to be the perfect master on a pedestal. I'm more of a guide at your side who's struggling alongside with you, and sometimes I'll know a tip to help you out, and other times I'm just stumbling like anybody else would. And I do this on purpose because I want to demystify this idea that, you know, there's just some artists out there who always know exactly what to draw. Okay, so we have these big structural folds in here, kind of translating the crunch. And you see how we have this shadow pattern running in here. I'm going to try and work with that. Oof. Wish I could have played a little bit more with that. Oh well. Okay. So the first thing I'll notice about this pillow is that there's a lean to it. It's not perfectly upright, right? I mean, obviously we notice a twist, but there's also a lean to it. So that's what I'll focus on first. So earlier I was talking about how this is an exercise that animators use. What I recommend, I forget of course the name of the book right now, but there's one of those classical Disney compendiums where you kind of see the work of the early Disney artists. And I could swear that they have a page on some of the Disney artists creating these flour sack drawings. And what you'll notice when you look at those kind of drawings created by animators is how they will have a very playful look, and you might describe them as stylized or cartoony, which of course was their intention. And if you wonder, well, how do they make theirs look cartoony? I want you to study that. Like, draw what you think is a realistic rendition of a pillow, and then compare it to how those animators might draw it. And I bet you what you'll find is that the marks are different. The more curvy and rhythmic you make your marks, the more cartoony they'll be. And the more true to life you try to remain, the more, I don't know, realistic of an outlook you get. Okay, so coming back to the lessons of creating clear form. So this here is a structural fold, right? This here is a structural fold. I'm reinforcing that by being clear about the overlaps, at least trying to be clear. See, this here is overlapping this here. This here is overlapping this here. Then I'm finding some echoes. And could play around here with this little hook-like shape. This line here helps us translate that there's a secondary crunch happening. And now that we have that, we can create even more form, or not, because time's up, I guess. But the next step would have been cross-hatching or seeking out a shadow pattern. So here we have kind of a sad, disheveled looking pillow. And so tendency is, this is a typical mistake artists do, or make, I guess you make mistakes, not do. On this edge, for example, here on the left side, you see there's 1, 2, 3 little creases or potentials for creases. The mistake that most people will do is that they draw those creases in right away, and they will pat themselves on the back saying, oh, look what a good artist I am. I'm putting in all the details. And in fact, it actually waters down your statement. It waters down the action or the character of the pose. So leave it out for now. It doesn't mean that, especially if you have a longer time to work on it, that you can't put it in later. But what you're first interested in is like the overall gist, right? It's like that strong statement, that strong opinion. You put it down, say it how it is, and once you have that, then you decide where you're going to put the details. Okay, so right now I'm trying to get, and see how it almost looks like a torso? You have this line, which would be the rib cage line, like the thoracic arc, right? This line is kind of cutting across, and then here we'd have the belly. So you see how this is not just about pillows, sneaky, sneaky. And even though up here there's a mild, almost more like a wrinkle, I'm going to put it in because it's going to help me reinforce this. So you see, we don't just copy, we clarify, we amplify, we translate, all of that. And then here I'm going to put that one in because I like that crunch. I'm going to probably leave the other ones out for now. And so the cool thing is, with kind of an exercise like this, you can do several renditions of it and say, okay, how about if I leave this line out and only put the other ones in? Okay, let's see. I can fit this one here. So looks pretty simple. And I think The simple ones are often the ones that are giving us the hardest time. Okay, so we have this here coming down. There's a bit of a compression wrinkle happening here. This is kind of fluff, like right back here, that's fluff. We could put it in later, but right now it would distract, so I'm going to leave it out. And as I was saying earlier, I often don't know the answers either until I try it out. And then I try it out and I realized, oh, that guess that I just put down on paper, that was the wrong guess. Now I know, and now I'm going to draw a second iteration. Like if that was like my own work that I'm trying to figure out. It's all just your best guess. Of course we study. I mean, you know, we study, we try to get our skills to a good level. So our guesses become more and more educated, but sometimes you still gotta guess. Okay, so what you saw me do here is I'm picking up on the form shadow. So you see how this area here is kind of darker or more bluish. Sometimes you can't really tell by lightness and darkness, and I kind of go, well, what is yellowish? That's light, and what is bluish is shadow. So I kind of drew along here to draw the shadow edge, and then I can just mass in the shadow pattern, and now this shadow pattern helps me create some form here. I'm going to come back over here and, okay, where am I? So this is that wrinkle over here. Say this is a cast shadow. So I'm saying this peak of the pillow is casting a shadow over its own body, so to speak. And what I'm trying to do is that this line here, the edge of that cast shadow, that looks like it's rounding over the form. So if I just drew that straight, it would flatten out the form. And you might say, well, I don't even see that. And you'd be right. I only see this snippet right here. So there's this fold right here, right? And then I see the edge of a cast shadow here, and then it becomes very diffused. So I'm just kind of I'm continuing it over to the end of the form. So again, when we copy, we confuse the viewer. So we have to analyze, what is this edge that I'm seeing here? Oh, it's a cast shadow. Okay, let me take it over to where it needs to go, even though there's a lot of fill light in the way. Because what reads in a photograph doesn't necessarily read in a drawing. And that's often, I mean, I definitely have been guilty of that in the past. Like students will go to their instructor and say, that looks exactly like I saw it in the photo. And in the photo, we believe it because it's a photo, but in a drawing, all of a sudden, our belief doesn't go that far. So what I'm trying out here, emphasis on trying, I saw this little peak here, like the corner of the pillow, and there's this little pull of a drape, like it's pulling up here, and I'm trying to play that up. Not sure if it's translating or not, but that's what I'm attempting here. Okay, another deceptively simple one. Let me scoot this over. So this is basically a backward bend of sorts. Okay, so I use the side of my pencil to capture just the action, kind of soft and light. And now that I have it, I can start to become more definite with a shape. So you see this little point here on the bottom left side. I'm going to edit that out because it's not necessary. It's not one of the corners. Like if that was the corner of the pillow, I'd exaggerate it. But it's just like a little pull, like somebody pulled the cover of the pillow, and it's just a little buckle, but it's not structural, so I'm leaving it out. Now here I have the swooping fold that tucks under in the front. Well, hey there, good morning to you. It's morning where you're at, right? Okay. So this here is that kind of rounded fold where it's tucking under. Okay, so I'm capturing this big rounded fold here. I'm capturing this wrinkle, that one. This is the big one. I'm going to echo that here. I'm going to echo it more with cross contours rather than with an actual line. So I'm spending most of the time over here because that's where the action is at. Over here on the left side, that's the stretched side, simple side. So we don't need that much information. It's actually when you have a stretched side, that's where you can what's called break a line. So it's a little bit hard because I'm working with Prismacolor and they're not so easy to erase. Yeah, I can't even get it with this. But you kind of get the idea. You see how this has gotten fainter here. So when you have kind of an accented line and then it gets light, it breaks, and then you pick it back up. Something really satisfying for the viewer's brain to see, because it kind of lets them finish the piece or participate in the piece. So when you have opportunities for it, you want to take them. So here, cross contouring, placing the marks along the facets of the pillow. I'm going to drop this in shadow. All right, hold on. Okay. So I told you lots of short poses today, which is perfect for these because they're not crazy complex. So I feel like you can get a fun little sketch in. Oh, you know, let's play with that. Let's make that reach up more. It's like, wow, I'm stretching. So, soar up. This is actually the perfect exercise for you because it piggybacks on what we were doing last week when we were talking about anthropomorphizing animals. Like if you begin anthropomorphizing simple things like a pillow, then when you're working with an animal, you've already done it, you know, like it's going to be easier with something complex once you've practiced with something simpler. So I'm exaggerating this here. I'm making this longer. I want it to feel like it's stretching a little bit higher. So here, this here is bearing a little bit of pressure, so I'm going to put that crease in, and it creates this lovely T intersection or an overlap. Remember those from earlier on. If you want something to feel like it's resting on the ground, make it appear straighter than it is. Because if it's round, it'll look like it's defying gravity. So here, this is some pressure, wrinklage happening. That's a word, right? Wrinklage. And this here pulls. And if I could, I'd erase this here. But oh well. Thus is life. I'm putting some cross contours at those plane changes where I see those midtones. See here, down here on the bottom, we're rolling into midtone. And so that's where I'm putting my cross contouring in. Oh, we're getting some rain. I hear the little pinging sounds on the roof. You'll probably hear that too, because I don't have a soundproof studio. I don't know. Is anybody else as entertained by these pillows as I am? I'm just like seeing like a little monster stomping away here. It's like I want to draw a person here. Oh, it's Dareth. How's it going, friend? So glad you're here. Okay, so Pillow is stomping on its little foot. I can't decide if it's like emphatically like dancing away or if it's stomping off in a huff. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Okay. Let me get this back up so you can actually see. Oh, I know, it's starting to rain over here too. It is really nice. Okay, so you see all this wrinkly stuff happening here. So we'll have to edit that. Like, I'm gonna make an executive decision here and actually gonna pretend like I have this thing happening. It's not really, but like right in here, I'm gonna edit that out and I'm gonna create a clear T intersection. So again, the focus is on clearer form. So that's what I'm doing. And then this here. So you know, you guys, there are people catching the recordings who live in England and other places, and if they hear us talk about excitedly how it's raining, they're probably just scratching their heads. But it's a big deal in California when we get rain. We gotta treasure every drop. But like when I lived in Germany, it was like, yeah, it rains every single day. What are you so excited about? Okay, so here's a cool opportunity. So I made this the main action, right? That's the big action fold, but I'm gonna echo this over here. So we wanna reinforce with echoes, and the echoes, like, you know, an echo is never as loud as the actual sound that caused it. So the same is true in drawing. Okay, and here's some editing necessary actually too. So you have like 1, 2, 3 little corner folds. I'm not sure if I need to put all 3 of them in, or if I can just add one more like this. See, so I made like a little, like a hook that is being intercepted here. So this is gonna carry the weight. And then this pulls up and over. And see if you could put somebody's head here with ears. Like their arms, do something. Okay, let's get some more form in this. I guess not. Okay, so the last 2 have the 2 pillows, so they're both 8 minutes long. See here, you can make a wrestling scene out of this one. Getting slammed down by this one. Which makes me think of, oh, that great show, Glow. Did you guys watch Glow? Man, that was a really fun show. And they canceled it. Okay, so my main action is here, kind of folding in this thing, kind of plopping down on it. Sorry, I need to move this over, otherwise I can't see you guys' comments. Sorry. Yeah, sort of. So definitely when you make a line darker, and then everything else is lighter, then if you apply it with a certain logic, it will read like the darker ones are on the shadow side. So of course you'll have to pay attention to, okay, so where is my shadow side? And you're gonna put those darker lines on the side that looks darker, like as in like where it's more shadowy. Also, if you make a darker line at the bottom, it can imply like it's bearing weight. Like especially if you, let's say you draw a vase with flowers in it and you accent the bottom edge of the vase touching the ground, that can make it read like that vase is now like pushing down on the table that's sitting on. Okay, so here on the left side, I did a lot of editing. See how there was like this wavy wave thing happening. So I'm looking at this one. This is a structural wave. This is a structural, what's the word? Fold. Fold is the word. And then here, this is kind of the ripple effect from it. So we put those in. This here is kind of echoing it. And Linz, I appreciate your enthusiasm about glow. That's exactly how I felt. Okay, so here's a good lesson. So see how I made this kind of wavy line? That was probably not a good choice, because what we want to do is we want to translate, let me draw it out here. We want to translate this, right? So this, like this pillow is being bent by this force coming down. And by me being a little bit shy about it and kind of copying what I thought I saw, it waters down the action. So not the end of the world, but it's a good learning moment. And with these pillows, like how you treat the corners can add a lot of character. If you make them long and pointy or really short and squat. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, isn't this fun? This is so much fun. And I'm just so happy that I get to draw pillows tonight. Oh gosh, total art nerd. So easy to please. I hope I'm not the only one. Using the seam is often nice to kind of reinforce some of the action. Okay, so lost edges, that's what I was saying earlier. Maybe I didn't say it in relation to the lighting. So lost edges are great if, like you see over here on the left side, so we have the light coming from over here, so this is a very bright area. So if you're paying attention to edges in your drawing, then that would be an area where I would have broken an edge open. So you want to have your edge closed in places where you have shadow or little light. And then when you have like a stretched out area that is in the light, that's the perfect opportunity to break an edge open. Okay, so I've gotten my action down. I've gotten the reinforcing folds. Last thing is to work on some form. So let's get the sky to look a little bit more three-dimensional. So somebody who has their students do these flour sack exercises is Will Weston. If you aren't aware of him, definitely follow his Instagram. He has these awesome Blackboard lectures. He's a figure drawing instructor, I think at Art Center. So, and sometimes he'll post his students' flour sack drawings. So definitely follow him. Learn all you can. So again, if you're wondering what's the logic behind these cross hatchings, I'm thinking in terms of planes. So if you think about the pillow as a bit of a box, sort of like this. Of course, it's a rounded box, right? It's not. Sorry, this is blocked by the picture. If you think about it as a box, and of course it's a rounded box, there are no hard edges because it's literally a pillow, but still there are facets to it. So there's a front facing facet and a side facing facet, and I'll pick an edge and reinforce it, or repeat it rather. So like that, you get your cross hatching to work. Okay, this is the last one. They're taking a bow. They're excited. They're cheering. Like the left one is cheering you on that he drew so much, and the other one is bowing for their performance. That's the story I'm telling myself. Really makes me think of Totoro. If any of you watched that show, the Studio Ghibli show, my daughter, she's 5. It's the only movie she'll watch. She won't go near anything else because everything else is too scary, but Totoro is something she'll watch. And so the little Totoros, they make me think of these pillows. So again, beginning with a strong gesture, a gesture that captures the action. And the cool thing about pillows is there's no pillow police. If you didn't capture the pillow exactly, like you made it fatter than it really was or thinner than it really was, like, yeah, it's still gonna look like a pillow. Same with trees. They're very forgiving to practice these really important principles with, and you can have fun with them. What else do you need? Okay. So here, see this little leg coming out. I'm going to make sure that this is clearly overlapped by the belly here. In reality, it's not so clear cut, but so anytime I put an overlap like this, I can spatially become a little bit clearer. So form is all about space, spatial clarity. That's what I'm thinking about. My pencil is losing its tip. I'm gonna sharpen it real quick. It's gonna get loud for a sec. Okay, that's better. Okay, so I'm describing the action. I'm describing this crunch by using this line, overlapping this line, overlapping this form. Let's get over to the left guy, the excited guy. Whee! So again, here's the overlap right here, at least for the top portion. So if you've come up with some fun drawings tonight, I'd love to see them. You can share them with me on Instagram, where I'm at Kira Studios. So if you don't want to post it to your feed, or if you don't want to do a story, just send me a DM at Kira Studios and share your picture of your pillow drawings with me so I can give you a high five for working hard. And if you do put it on your feed or in your story, just tag me at Kira Studios so I can see it, because I want to applaud you. Yeah, if you flatten this one out, it'll look more like there's pressure coming down on the pillow rather than making it round. Okay, let's get some cross contour here. So if you like these sketch sessions, if you felt like, oh man, that was cool drawing along with somebody and being able to also see how they're doing it and pausing and coming back to it, and you don't want to miss one, get on my email list. Every week you'll get a entertaining email, I dare say, and in that entertaining email I'll also tell you what's coming up next for the sketch session, what we'll be focusing on, and if there are ever any classes that I have coming up or any specials that I'm running, my insiders list, they always get special treatment. So if you're not already on it, get on my email list. There's a link for it in the description of the video, and you can sign up either through a link where you get a free pen and ink materials guide. So if you've ever wondered, well, what tools should I use for pen and ink drawing, you can use that link. Or you can use the other link, which will give you a workbook that outlines 3 really simple questions. But with those 3 really simple questions, you can make your drawings instantly better. So those are my welcome gifts to anybody who gets on my insiders list. See this line here? That's kind of an echo of this fold. So this fold here, which is a structural fold, has a little echo over here. I'm picking up on that as I'm getting this shadow or mid-tone laid in. It's like all this small wrinkly stuff, I'm leaving it out. That's not structural. It's not adding anything. It's busy work. Like you can tell yourself that you're such a great artist for including all that stuff, but you're in that regard, you're just copying, and copying often weakens your drawing. I mean, sometimes, of course, we need those special details, those nuances. But especially if you only have 7 minutes, 8 minutes, you want to be selective about what you put in. All right, well, that was the end of my footage. Let me switch over. There it is. Okay, well, I hope you had a good time. I hope you were as entertained by these pillows as I was. I had a great time just making up my own stories. So just to recap, I have my notes here, so that's why I'm glancing down, because I don't want to miss anything. To recap your lesson, when you're drawing an inanimate thing that has lots of information on it, and you're wondering, what do I put in? What do I leave out? You want to kind of go through these 5 points. Number 1, create a really strong gesture, meaning what's the shape? You know, is it leaning this way, or is it doing this, or is it going moo? You know, like what are those big shapes, and begin with those. Then the second thing is that action. What kind of structural creases is that creating? Those are the edges you want to put in first. Third, see if there are any echoes of these structural folds. And you have your big structural fold that's created by the action. You draw that the strongest, and then the echoing folds are a little bit milder. There was one more thing. Oh yeah, overlaps. Be sure that you tease out the clarity of the overlaps, so you can explain this is in front and this is a little bit behind, or the other way around. And then the last thing to get that really clear form is that you want to cross hatch, or it's an and/or actually, look for shadow patterns. So those 2 things will create clear form. And what can you leave out? Wrinkles. Textural wrinkles. Not necessary, unless there's always an unless your drawing is about hyperrealism, where you want to put the nth degree of detail in, then of course you're going to put them in. But for quick sketching, leave those textural wrinkles out. All right, next week, well, you're so welcome. Next week we're back to the figure. We have a lovely model we'll be working with, and the theme will be drawing on tradition. So the model is taking on traditional poses from master drawings or master sculptures, and we'll have just fun with that. So I hope to see you there. Again, get the alert on the email list, and tag me in your Instagram posts, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.